Welcome back. I'm Teresa Bruno, the host of the Soul Talks podcast, and I'm so excited that we have Cindy Halsted back with us today to tell more of her story. So listen in. Your experience probably speaks to so many young women, women with children who hear, when you say, I just couldn't get a meal on the table, and yet you love your husband, you love these babies, you're trying so hard in a faith walk. I just wondered if you'd speak a little more to that, what it felt like, the pain of it, the crawl to get out.
I think the counseling started, when I was maybe 21, 22. It was early on that I started to embrace it, but it was a week away. I'd go to a place and get some help and then come back. So there were things like that helped. And that's what I needed. I needed it to be normalized. And if I could say anything to anybody, on this subject, it's okay. It's not your fault necessarily. Yeah. It's not your fault. Yeah. It's either your makeup, it's your circumstances. I can say this now when I do counseling with teens who are hurting, who have so much anxiety. I'll say to them, listen, anxiety is in the air right now. It's everywhere. So and I'll use the analogy for pollution. If you go to an isolated island in the Pacific, there's probably no pollution. You're not going to pick up on it. If you move to Chicago, you're going to have more. If you move to San Francisco, you're going to have more. You move to Hong Kong, you're going to pick up on it. And I think the anxiety in the world and what we live in, and as we've continued to grow, if you just normalize it and say, hey, it's okay. And one of the best parts for me when I started really looking into the Bible, more than half of the Psalms are laments. Mm-hmm. It's painful. It's hard, and I needed it to be normalized for me.
Because
and I think
life just is hard.
It's hard. Jesus says that.
Yeah, even if you're a person like you with very little questioning and this huge faith, life is still hard.
It's still hard. It's still hard, and it's going to be hard. And it says in the Bible that Jesus was familiar with suffering and who knew pain. And that's someone who's perfect. So if he's going to feel that, it's going to be normal for us to suffer. And I think that helped me a lot, is to first normalize it. Secondly, to get safe people around you. Mm-hmm. That was a big thing for me, to have safe people that I could talk to. I did, I don't know how old I was, but I did start to move into more counseling to look at some of the pains of my past. As great as my father was, and he was wonderful, he made some mistakes of what he said to me. I can remember I was 16 and he said to me, if you lost 10 pounds, mind you, I think I was a size 8. It's ridiculous. And he said, if you lost 10 pounds, you'd look even better on stage.
Oh my gosh.
And I can remember being like, wait, what?
That means I'm not good enough like this.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I can remember being sick, my sweet daddy, and he brought me McDonald's chicken sandwich. And I can remember that moment going, this is going to make me feel better? But he was trying in his way. So I had normalized some patterns of thinking. So then that sent me down eating disorder stuff. And so all that stuff gets in there. No one teaches you how to speak. Mm-hmm. You catch it from others when you're a baby. And so whatever's the norm in the house, you pick up on it and you do it from there. So going back and exploring that in safe ways was huge for me, mm-hmm. Just to change and grow. That did help my mental state. Some people need medication, totally understand that. We don't even know what's coming at us with all the tech and what's changing us. So I like to say to people, you need to feel seen, soothed, and safe, and you'll feel more secure. And we all need that in life.
Soothed, and safe, and you'll feel more secure. 4 S's.
Yes.
That's very
and that
interesting.
It's not my original quote. That was from the guy who wrote Soul of Shame, and how shame is, debilitating. But I try to create environments now in my own life and with others so those things can happen. Mm-hmm. And that just makes all the difference in the world.
And Cindy, I can't help but, draw the correlation. You start this mental health journey at 15. You start a faith journey at about the same time. And then here you are today, this woman doing something I am just so proud of you for doing, and so passionate about the absolute objective of it is you are teaching women who are already leaders in the world. You've gotten your master's in marriage, family, and something else.
Marriage and family therapy.
And you're a licensed coach in ART. That's
I'm a
accelerated.
certified coach. Yep.
And accelerated
Resolution therapy.
therapy. Thank you. You know, you've done all these things to be in the world, I think, what you needed in the world. And so here you
That's
are.
the point.
Yeah, here you are, you know, teaching women leaders, you know, kind of how to connect relationally, spiritually. And I think you and I have talked a lot about it. It's part of my deep grounding and what I work on for myself and anybody I'm involved in coaching every day too, is just that very basic 3-word concept. I am enough.
Yes. Ugh.
You know, I am enough just like I am. I don't need to lose 10 pounds. I don't need to put on makeup. I don't need to have another degree. I don't need to have a cleaner house. I don't need to be skin, you know, all those things. I am enough right now. And I've always been enough.
Yeah.
You know, but those 3 words for women, I think especially, I'm sure it resonates for men. I don't mean to exclude them. But I know certainly from my perspective, our culture kind of squeezes us so hard in that perfectionist mentality that the feelings of being enough almost evaporate from the time we're very young as little girls and young women. But I do see, you know, this track in your life from 15 forward that makes so much sense for what you're doing today.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, you keep bringing up your dad, and I don't know your dad. I've never seen a picture of your dad, but I have this, you know, I have this such warm, kind of affectionate feeling about what he was, you know, like as a man. And then I want you to tell the story. So you grew up in this house. He's a football coach. Most of the guys won't date you in town because they're afraid of your dad. But tell the story about your guy friend who wanted to be a punter on your dad's football team.
Oh my gosh,
You
yes.
gotta give me that story.
Oh, this is so funny.
Because it says so much about you.
Well, you know, and it also shares, like, one of the things I probably developed was a codependency in me at an early age. Like, I'm okay if I'm helping others. Like, that was another way to perform. And an unhealthy way of it, but it worked out in the end, is one of my friends, he was on the football team, and I was at all the football games. My brother was playing for him, and he wanted to learn how to be a punter on the football team. And I was like, oh, I'll ask my dad. My dad will teach me, and then I'll teach you. And
Okay, wait,
so-
stop. You can't even keep talking right there.
Yeah.
Just the very fact that you were like, I don't know, junior in high school or something, and you
Yeah,
think that if your dad teaches you how to do it, be a punter, you can teach a young football player how to do it. I mean, the confidence in that is unbelievable.
I think it stems from my dad was probably one of the best coaches I'd ever seen. And he taught me, well, I caught how to coach watching my dad. And so
wait, is part of your coaching now the way he coached?
Yeah.
Okay.
He believed, makes me cry, I'm going to keep crying. He believed in his players.
Yeah.
He really did.
Yeah.
And I saw it in the background. He did such unique things. And in fact, when he died, it was during COVID. But people who should not have been at a funeral came because you couldn't keep them away. It was this beautiful tent, and it was September of 2020. And I remember there's this gorgeous sunset, and I'm setting up the tent for my dad to be honored, and we thought maybe 50 could be allowed because it was outside and separated. And people in the town, former players, just kept coming. It was incredible. And they all got up and honored him. And I saw the outward appearance of what I experienced in the background with my dad.
Yeah.
And being such a good coach and believing in them.
But I do hear, I hear this conversation between who he was as a man, how he coached, what he instilled in you, that confidence, that belief.
Yes.
And, the thread just hops right back over into exactly what you're building with your secure coaching program. And I'm so new to your world, but I've been privileged, in just a few weeks to be introduced to a number of women, and they are all leaders and they are all powerful women.
Yeah.
But your belief in them, in the way that you are coaching them through places in their life they might never have dug around in before, but that are core to them thriving and having joy, in life. It's what your dad did in a different way, right?
Yeah.
All right, so finish the story. I totally interrupted your punting story.
No. I forgot the question because I remember thinking it was good because there's other things I learned from him about generosity. Oh my gosh, my dad was insane. And so that is a whole nother thing. But you took me down to my dad and I can't remember why.
No, the story of the boy who wanted to be the punter, and you go to your dad and you say to the boy, oh, just hang on a minute. I'll ask my dad to teach me.
It's true. And okay, so I asked my dad to teach me and I believed he would. He never even missed a beat. He didn't say, well, does he need to come learn from me? I should teach him. He's like, okay, this is what you can do. And he just gave me like the 7 things to teach him. He took me outside. He showed me what he would do. And he's like, so just tell him. The codependent part of me, like, probably wanted to date this guy friend who didn't want to date me. So I was like, okay, but I would get up. Makes me laugh now. I would get up at 6 a.m., an hour before school, just to go meet him at the school and show him how to do it. And I would never do that now. But anyway, he was my sweet husband. He's probably like, where's that codependency part?
Sorry, Bruce.
I know, exactly. But I went and taught him. And I don't know where the confidence came from. I think all right, this is what I'm feeling. Because I knew who God was, I have a confidence to move forward easier because of who God is. I had confidence in my dad's coaching. So if I couldn't do it, that I didn't see it so much as me. It's almost like I convey it to David and Goliath. I think David at that point had confidence in who God was. It took for him a while to believe in who he was, to walk into his identity as the king, but is taking on Goliath, even though he's afraid, he knew who God was. I think I knew who my dad, and he would teach me more, and I could help. And he ended up becoming the punter on the team, like 4 months later.
I mean, I just think it's on so many layers. It's just the best story. I love it so much.
Oh, thank you. It was fun. I forgot about that.
So one of the places that I just think is of pure delight in your world, and I don't know, maybe those who know you would guess this about you, but I'm not sure if you were standing up in front of a big group of women to speak that they would guess this of you, and that is your absolute die-hard support, affiliation, jump up and down in the room for Michigan football.
Oh, gosh, yes. Heck yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right,
Big
you just
time.
got to go long here for me. Just go. Just tell me the whole
Well,
thing.
okay, so just to clarify, Michigan football, yes, in a way. I think you mean Detroit
Yes,
Lions
Detroit
football.
Lions football, sorry.
Yes, so sorry to correct you.
Oh,
But
well, I'm not in that place. I need a lot of correcting.
no,
Now, if
okay,
it's Alabama football, college football, I can go long.
I get that. No, so it started I was born in 1970, and like I told you, heard my dad's story with football. I sang the national anthem for the Detroit Lions
No.
I was 17. So in the Pontiac Silverdome, and so there's a history. They weren't very good. I could go on and on. I say, Cindy, rein it in to a degree.
Land the plane, babe.
Land the plane. They weren't. I could go on and on. I could do a whole podcast about the Lions. Anyway, they weren't that great for 30 years. They've been horrible. I have relatives that have had season tickets for decades, 30 years. My brother, after my father passed away, I would say my brother and I grew up not really close, but respecting each other. And we both had kids and we loved each other. Through the death of my parents, my brother and I got so close. Like we say this, like it's one of the biggest gifts, and I love his wife and they love Bruce, and I know that's not the norm, so I don't take that for granted. Well, he got season tickets 3 years ago, in a way, after my father passed. And even though he played college football, he needed a break for it. He was coming back. And that's when the Lions started to get good. And it was amazing. And it all starts with a woman,
Yep.
Sheila.
Tell me the story. I
Oh,
love this story.
so Sheila Hemp inherited the Detroit Lions from her parents, and she had always wanted to play in football, kind of like me. My dad, but she tried to go to school to learn how to be, to do stuff with the NFL, but she was never allowed in, never. And so that was decades ago. Now there's ways for women to get involved in football, but when the parents asked her if she wanted them, she said to her husband, do you want to do this? He's like, I don't know. But she goes, but I want to. And he's like, okay, I'll support you. And so she went to a couple people that she admired and said, if you were going to take on the Lions, I mean, decades of being the bad news bears, not a winning team. And they said, you have to change the whole culture. You have to hire someone who loves football. You have to change everything. And it's going to take risk. And you might get judged. And are you willing to do that? And she's like, yeah. So she hired Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes, who came in as the head coach and the one who was going to hire, who was, come to the team. That first year, I think they won like 5 of 15, nothing great. Second year, it started to turn. Third year, they are unbelievably good. And who they get, I mean, I've watched every episode about everything. When they choose who to hire to bring in, it has to be someone who loves football, who's going to play with all their heart. No superstars on their own, team players. And I think it's just like everything I learned from my dad about good coaching. Dan Campbell is like my hero. Like, I can't wait to hopefully meet him someday. And so I've been to some games, absolutely love it. Cinderella story with them this past year. They had so many injuries, and yet they kept going. And for the city of Detroit, it's just huge. And I mean, I've flown out to games. I can't wait for next year. I would be doing teaching Bible classes. I'd have my Lions shirt on, my jersey on. And there's so many. My favorite player is Jamar Gibbs. Love him. He lived on the streets for years.
Oh my
He was
gosh.
adopted into this family, and he's fantastic. So you want to know more, you ask me, because any of my good friends say, you say Detroit Lions, and City goes, what?
Well, but it's also one of those things that kind of knits together all the parts of you.
Yeah.
It's that coaching thing, it's that rah-rah thing you do, it's that
Yeah.
always rooting for the underdog, and
Oh.
then it's this big piece of your dad's influence in sports and all that. I just love it. It's just that piece of you that makes me laugh so hard.
It's fun. Well, if you're going to know me through the season, you're going to be like, okay, Cindy, back it down a little. I'm like, sorry.
Well, I
It's
want to
fun.
take a turn. I
Okay.
want to go back for a minute when we were talking about, that right angle that happened in your life because you could no longer play sports, and just because you wanted scholarship money, you get into pageants,
Yes.
and then you begin to understand how women are looked at very differently than you'd ever felt looked at before, and you did feel objectified, especially when you had on makeup and your hair was done and you were representing a pageant. And then you fast forward, I don't know how many years later, and you have a daughter, Anna, and you're afraid. Anna's struggling, and you're so afraid. She's beautiful. She's what, at that point, maybe 12? And you start to see things, and you're very fearful because of the way you had been treated, the things that had been said to you, how it shaped you. So start me somewhere in your story with amazing Anna.
Okay, sure. She was the middle child. We had Christina, and 2 years, 20 months later, had Anna. And my kids are just the greatest joys. I absolutely love them. And they're now 31, 30, and 28. And when Anna was born, she was just easy. Christina, we like to say, was very hard, in those early years. And then Anna got into exploring it too. And she just had the curious side to her. So she'd get into things, and, we handled it pretty well. We made some mistakes, for sure, that I wish I could, the regrets that I have. But when she was 12, she just started to blossom. Beautiful. And because she was more introverted, she had this look about her of beauty and this look of mystery. And I can remember as that started to happen, the unhealed parts and the wounds inside of me looked at her a certain way. I like to say that my glasses, the paradigm on my glasses was fear of her being objectified and being used. And she loved the attention, which would be normal. And she was a girly girl, very into makeup. She would try on clothes, outfits 7 times a day, and and it was sad for my husband because he was one of 3 boys. So he didn't have a sister to normalize that. That's great that there's a girly girl. Christina was not as much of a girly girl. And so I moved into fear, and I can remember this 12-year-old like whistling at her. And of course, Anna's like, oh, innocent. And I'm like, she's 12. And he's like, oh, sorry.
Me no, Mama.
Oh, Mama Bear came out. And unfortunately, though, the things I said to her, I was like, Anna, careful, careful, careful. Anna, don't. And I just went into all this fear. And my husband, because she was also brilliant, especially with math and science and medical, you could see this gifting inside of her. But my husband, he partied so much in high school, he didn't get into the school he wanted. So when he looked at her, he had all this control. She needs to study more. She's in front of the mirror all the time. Why is she doing this? Because his control, both based out of a good place, maybe somewhere, but our unhealed wounds colored that. And so the poor girl had fear and control coming at her. And then the comparison to her sister, who was just naturally more of a rule follower. I mean, the pain we put on her just breaks my heart.
Next week on The Soul Talks, Cindy reflects on parenting, perfection, and the moment she realized her fear was shaping her daughter's story. It's a raw and redemptive look at healing the past so you can love better in the present.